Welcome to the Chaos Commanders podcast. I'm Annie, aka Commander A, military wife, mom of two, and seasoned in navigating deployments, juggling schedules, and life's unpredictable missions.
And I'm Katelynn, aka Commander K, solo mom to a busy, neurodivergent teenage boy, business owner, and skilled chaos wrangler.
We're here for the moms who do it all, the sideline CEOs, the late night warriors, the women leading in their homes, businesses, and beyond.
If you've ever felt like you're running a tactical operation just to get through the day, this is the place for you. We're bringing raw, unfiltered conversations, honest insights, and tangible strategies to help you command the chaos like the Wonder Woman you are.
So grab your coffee, wine, or whatever keeps you going, because we're diving in.
Welcome back to the Chaos Commanders podcast. On the last couple of episodes, you've gotten to know Commander Annie and Commander Katelynn. And one of the things that we have in common is that we both have kiddos that are half American and half something else. So we thought that it would be fun to discuss a little bit about our connection over that similarity and shared experience. And so today's episode is called Culturally Speaking, and Annie is going to share our song for the playlist for this episode.
Yes, we thought it was appropriate to have We Are Family by Sister Sledge. So that has officially been added to the playlist. And it's just super appropriate for all that is this episode.
It is. It's perfect.
I will go first with some of the shares. Our children are part American and part Jamaican, and my husband's from Jamaica. So by the time I met him, he had been in the United States for several years, and you can hear a hint of an accent when he talks, but it's not really, really thick. I think he's done a really good job. Not a good job. I mean, I don't know how to say that exactly because I love his accent, but yeah, he's kind of, I feel like when, I know for a fact, because I have a friend who works with people who live in different countries and come to the United States, and the first thing they say is, I want to lose my accent and I want to sound more American. So I think he worked really hard on trying to sound more American, but boy, it comes out, especially when phone calls happen. So he grew up speaking Patois, which is what they speak in Jamaica. And he knows a lot of other languages too. That's besides the point. And that is an interesting language. It's like the best way I can describe it, if you've never heard Patois, is like shmush. Like they take a whole bunch of English words and they just shmush them together. And it's he would say it too, it's kind of a lazy language, and I have tried really hard to learn it. And then everybody just laughs at me because I'm so American. So they're like, yeah, man. And like, I even just said that, very American. Like, I can't even do it, but like to them, it's like I'm sitting there saying, yeah, man. Yep. So I've kind of given up. Our kids really want to learn Patois, and I'm like, yay, I could learn it with them. It's probably not going to happen for me. Like, I hope that happens for them. I will not understand them probably, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yep. We went to Jamaica last year, and like when they came home from that, they were like, we have to learn how to speak Patois. And I was like, I love your goals.
Yeah. Love that. It'll be so much easier for them. It's just really hard to learn languages when you're older. Not that it's impossible, but they'll have a much easier time.
It is. Okay, so another quirk is that most Jamaicans have their regular name, and then they have their pet name. Mm-hmm. And so when Andre and I started dating, he took me to a holiday party that was primarily Jamaicans. And he's like, oh, so this is so-and-so, and then this is their pet name. And I was like, oh my. So there's like 40 people here, and now I need to know 80 names. Yeah. Probably not happening.
Not happening.
So that was very interesting. I think that I just like drank a lot of their eggnog that had extra special stuff in it. So I'd be like, I don't know. It's so nice to meet you.
Yes. I am terrible with names. So if that was like a test you had to pass to get in the family, I would be in trouble.
Yeah, I try to be really, really good. Names are important, right? So
Yes.
I try to be really good about knowing people's names. But when I walked in that door and he's like, by the way, everybody has 2 names. And I was like, by the way, I'm not going to learn it.
Yep.
So that was one, like, straight out of the gate, before we had kids thing that I was like, okay, here we go. Like, we are all in on learning your ways.
Yeah.
So then we have kids, and I've got a couple of stories to share. I'm trying to decide which way to go. Like, do I go chronologically, or do I keep on talking about language well, it's all talking about language. I'm going to go with our daughter had spelling words, and we were trying to help her with note cards. We would say the word on the card, and she would have to spell it for us. She would either have to write it on a board, or we would make her spell it verbally to us, because both are, good ways to learn how to spell a word.
Yeah.
And I wish he was here right now so he could say some of these words for you guys, because it's pretty hysterical. Katelyn's got to hear him pronounce some of these words. But the biggest one was the word off and the word of. And when he says them, they sound almost identical.
They do, yeah.
And so poor Raina, I'm like off doing something that I kind of like, I can hear in the background what's going on, but I'm doing my thing, and he's helping her, and I was probably with Joel or something, and then all of a sudden I could hear like the tension building between them, and she's getting mad, and she's like, Dad, that's not the right word, like it's off, and he's like, no, you're not spelling it right. And so I finally come into the room, and that poor girl, like, she was so frazzled, and she had the right word, he was not pronouncing it right.
Yep.
So that was the day that I learned that Mom gets spelling quiz duty for the children until we can like prime those words a little bit better. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. There are a few that you do a pretty good job of, like, you have spelled them and then told us how he says them. You should do a few of those. Do you remember off the top of your head?
Oh, shoot. Do you remember?
No.
So for when he says off, it's like f.
Yes.
And he really like pronounces that extra F, so it's like f. That's too dramatic, but that's the best way I can do it. And then of, right? And then like this wasn't a spelling word, but HERB. We say herb. He says herb. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I can't think of any right now.
Oh, well, you both say, so I say elementary school.
Elementary.
Yep. And then you and Andre both say elementary.
Yes.
So there's some things that you both pronounce more clearly.
Yes.
than us Southern folk do.
Yep. That was probably from living in New York for a while.
Yeah. And then like bagel, doesn't he say like bagel or something like that?
Bagel, yes.
Yeah.
He says that. Yeah, we'll have to get him on here and then bust his chops when he says those words.
For sure.
We're like, hey, you're doing it.
Yeah, but those are just great examples of how, like, if he was trying to do spelling words and he pronounces things different, how especially younger kiddos would have a really hard time being like, what in the world is Dad trying to have me spell?
For sure. And it was just kind of one of those moments that you don't think about something like that happening until you are in that moment.
Yep.
So
Dad got fired from
that.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was super sad about it. And, I was happy to take over. Yeah. We have to win some, lose some.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
And then there was a really funny moment. I was pregnant with Joel. We lived in Georgia. And there was a neighbor in our like, we didn't live on Post, but it was really close to Post, and there were a lot of military families in that neighborhood. And when people move, like, they just don't want to deal with their stuff. And when you want to get rid of things that you just, like, you don't want to deal with this, you're like, hey, community Facebook group, all my stuff is sitting on the curb. And this family happened to have a ton of baby stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we didn't have with Raina that I really wanted to have with Joel, especially having an almost 2.5-year-old and a brand new baby, is I wanted a Bumbo seat.
Yeah.
Like,
cool.
like you sit your kid in that, like they're like, 4 or 5 months old, and it helps them sit upright.
Yeah.
We'll post a picture of what a Bumbo seat is in case you're questioning. I think most people know what that is.
I think so too, yeah.
And so I saw this picture on this Facebook community post, and I was like, oh, there are so many things I want to go get. And Andre, they have a Bumbo. And he is just looking at me like I have 3 eyeballs on my forehead. And, like he wanted to be really excited for me. And just like, so, you know how he is. He just like jumps on board and he's like, okay, babe, let's go make it happen. It's 4 streets over. We'll drive the car over there and we'll go pick up whatever you want.
Yeah.
And we get over there and I'm like, Bumbo! And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I finally I pick it up and I'm like, look at this. This is going to be so amazing. Like, I'm going to do this and this and this with it. We get it in the car. We get it in the house. We clean it down and we get ready to go. Oh, so then I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I scored this Bumbo. And then I called my sister and I'm like, we got the Bumbo. We got it for free. And so finally, he's just like, babe, we got to talk about this because it's like, I feel like there's a disconnect here. The word Bumbo in Jamaica is the F word in America.
What the Bumbo?
What the Bumbo? And so then I was dying laughing. And then we talked to his sisters and told them about it. And they were just like, their jaws are dropping. Like, yeah. What are you saying? So that was fun. Culturally speaking, right?
Yeah.
So anytime you are feeling frustrated, you can say WTF or WTB.
Yeah.
What the Bumbo?
What the Bumbo?
And it means the same. Not in America.
Not in America. That is amazing. And what a supportive husband.
What a supportive husband.
He had no idea what you were taking him to pick up.
No, he was concerned.
Yeah.
There was concern in his eyes.
There was, I'm sure.
He just went along with the pregnant lady because that's what you do at that point in pregnancy, right?
Yep. Oh my gosh, that is hysterical.
Okay, share some culturally speaking on your end.
Yeah, on my end. So Katelynn, my son, is half Mexican. And I don't have as many funny stories, probably. Mine was just more culture shock on my side. And I think that there probably would have been more funny things happen if we had had more experience with his family and growing up with his father. But as I shared in, my episode of kind of learning more about us, we left his dad whenever he was 6 months old. So there hasn't been a lot of that influence and that culture, in his life. And so, yeah, ours was more during my pregnancy and the marriage and things like that. So just kind of early on, but still good stuff to know about, I guess, if you're, somebody who's, I guess, gonna enter into a marriage with someone from a different culture, just things to, I don't know, think about, be aware of. And so, yeah, mine was a big culture shock on how involved Mexican families can be with each other, right? They love to celebrate everything. And that's not a bad thing by any means, but my family was not so much like that. They would get together for the MTV Awards, and had a huge dinner and lots of alcohol and lots of people over. And it was just a big ordeal. And I'm a very introverted person. I tend to be kind of low energy. And so sometimes these things would be happening when we had a big weekend of stuff to do or right after work or things like that. And it was a lot to adjust to, I would say.
Sure. That social battery.
Yes.
Got to keep one on reserve.
Yes. My social battery was often depleted. And my ex-husband did not get that because he was a social butterfly, which is where my kid gets it from, I'm sure.
Right. Well, and he grew up with it too, right?
Yes.
So, whether or not you're ready for it, you're ready for it. So.
Exactly. But it was also very rude to decline, at least according to my ex-husband. I don't know if his family cared if I declined, but I got a lot of migraines in Oklahoma for the heat. And so luckily, sometimes those let me get out of having to go to things. It wasn't good to have a headache, but it did get me out of some things, which was sometimes nice because, yeah, sometimes I was just could I just stay home and read a book? I don't really want to go do all of this stuff, So anyway, that was an adjustment. I will say the one thing that I miss about my ex-in-laws is my ex-mother-in-law would make the most amazing breakfast tacos. And, living in Oklahoma, I don't know that there was that many places that you could go to a legit Mexican restaurant or like food truck and go get like really good breakfast tacos back in the day. I think they have some now, but I know it's a huge thing in Texas, and Texas is where they were really from. That's where most of his family lives. And so she would make them on the weekends, and we would go over there with the kids, my stepdaughter and my son, and yeah, have those and just, you know, have some family time and everything. Again, all that family time. Right. But that was fun. I tried to learn how to make her homemade tortillas. That never worked out. I never got it down.
Dang it.
I know. I wish I could do that because that was one of my favorite parts.
I mean, we can always try.
We can try. She tried to show me, and she tried to show my mom one time, and we just never could get it down. So I don't know. It's a special talent, I think.
Right. To be born with it.
Right.
Maybe Katelynn could do it.
Yeah, maybe he will have the skill. I don't know. Maybe I need to send him to go visit and be like, learn to make the tortillas while you're there.
Right.
So, yeah, get the secrets. Another thing that was kind of like snuck up on me, so don't do this, people out there, is so with their culture, like, I mean, I feel like most Mexicans are Catholic. And so being Catholic was really important to my ex-husband, but he like had already proposed and like we were already well on our way to getting married before he told me that he expected me to be Catholic too. And that was just like never in my life plans to be Catholic. I don't have anything wrong with other people being Catholic. It just wasn't my plan. I always went to non-denominational church. My mom grew up Southern Baptist. When I was younger, I actually went to a church, more culture. So my mom is actually of Jewish heritage. So this is like just way out of left field for me, right?
Sure.
So whenever I was really little, we went to a church that actually converted Jews to Christianity. It was called Bet Ami in Oklahoma. And so my mom would speak Hebrew prayers and made challah bread and
wow.
Yeah, like all of that stuff. But it was like we had Jewish people who were interested in Christianity, and we played Hebrew music. My dad played the guitar. My older brother did all kinds of dances to all of this music and everything. So like that's how I grew up. I didn't have Catholicism on my radar.
Sure.
And I had never expressed interest in changing or, you know, anything like that. And so, yeah, for it to just be like this huge important thing that was never mentioned like that was definitely an important conversation that should have been had.
Absolutely. Young love, right? Like,
yeah.
That's all you young people.
Yes.
Get all your ducks in the basket.
Exactly. So that's one of those things that like, if you're a young person or if you're a person who is exploring relationships or whatever, having those non-negotiables and making sure that you're upfront and clear with them.
Absolutely.
Is super important. So that was another one. And then, so then another thing. So again, about family. Yours was a lot about language. Mine's a lot about family. So when Caden was born, he was premature. He was in the NICU for like 8 days. And so whenever we got released, we were told a couple of things. He wasn't supposed to, for a couple of months, really be around people from other states. We were really supposed to limit contact with family outside of our immediate household. And then smokers, like he really wasn't supposed to be around people that smoked. If he was, they were supposed to wear like aprons over their clothing because it can hold the smoke and he could still be affected by it. And it was just interesting. And again, I don't know if this was just my ex-husband because he can be very pushy, headstrong, that kind of thing. But it was very much like, oh, they must be talking about like other people, not my family, right? So my son was born in early November, and Thanksgiving was right around the corner. And my husband just thought that like, well, we were still going to do family Thanksgiving and we were going to go to Texas. And I had just had a C-section. Our baby had literally, and he was born on November 8th and then was in the NICU for 8 days. He had just come home and he thought we were going to go to Texas. And I'm like, they said no people from out of state. And yet you want us to go out of state where we'll be around everyone from out of state. Like everywhere we go, we'll be germs that he's never been around, that we are not used to being around. And so there was a lot of like risk of illness and everything. And I was like, we're not going. And yeah, that caused a lot of tension and everything. And
Sure.
I caved, and I did let us go to his parents' house for Thanksgiving and just had like the immediate family over there. But we really weren't even supposed to do that. So it was just like, I was the worst person in the world for wanting to follow the medical advice.
Right. Shame.
Right? Because, you know, it's family. It's family.
Right.
And family should just be allowed to see the baby and do whatever they want and all the things. So,
Right.
yeah. So that was hard to adjust to.
With as far as language goes, I can't remember. Does Caden know Spanish? Does he speak Spanish?
Not really. He's learning it right now. But my ex-husband's family didn't, I've never really heard them speak Spanish around each other all that much. I guess one of the cultural things we did, there was a little bit of Spanish spoken with the family that was more in the San Antonio area.
Sure.
So I did hear that a little bit when I was down there. There was more food that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
They have the tradition of making tamales whenever we were there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so I believe they make them at Thanksgiving and then like save them and eat them at Christmas, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it was more food related experiences that we had with their family.
He has a half sister.
Yes, he does have a half sister.
Does she speak Spanish?
I don't believe she speaks Spanish.
Okay.
And his half sister is fully Mexican.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So her mom is Mexican as well.
Okay. And he
Then
communicates with her every now and then.
Yeah, he communicates with her. She actually lives in Texas, and she comes up to Oklahoma every once in a while, and so we'll get to see her sometimes whenever we can be in Oklahoma at the same time.
Yeah.
And his grandparents did bring her up one time to one of Caden's martial arts events, and so she got to watch him compete, so that was really exciting.
Awesome.
So, but
It'll be interesting to see what he pulls from her, like, throughout the years as far as, like, as he explores his cultural background. I feel like he's 14 and he's kind of curious about some of that stuff, just some of the conversations that he and I have had. And so that'll be really interesting to watch. Well, that is a wrap for today. If we have any multicultural families that would love to go over to our socials, Instagram and Facebook, we would love to hear some of your funny stories or some of your cultural differences that you've experienced raising these little families that we have, because I am here for all of the funny stuff.
Yes, I'm sure lots of people have fun stories to share, whether it's adjustment to different ways of doing things or language barriers or
cooking, all of it.
All of the things. So there will be posts over on our social channels, and then you can comment on our blog posts. So however you want to do it, we would love to engage in conversation with you. So stay tuned for the next episode, and we will catch you then.
Bye.
All right, Chaos Crew, that's a wrap for today. If you loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow commanders.
Don't forget, we're all in this together. Join the conversation in our Chaos Commanders community on Instagram and Facebook, where we keep it real, raw, and ridiculously fun.
Remember, our fears establish the limits of our lives, so go push past them.
And always leave others better than you found them.